SLT Mobitel Home Broadband සමගින් non-stop ගමනකට data බෝවන්. SLT Mobitel Home Broadband සමගින් non-stop ගමනකට data බෝවන්.
In your headlines tonight, made in Sri Lanka, President Ranil Wickremesinghe says consistent national policy that sets the economy on course for mid to long-term goals with an export-oriented economy based on competitive technology at the centre, an urgent need for Sri Lanka.
අවුරුදු 10කට 15කට 20කට මේ ජාතික ප්‍රතිපත්තිය අනුව ඉදිරියට යනවා නම් කිසි විටක අපි අසාර්ථක වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Recession risks. Sri Lankan delegation to the IMF World Bank annual meetings to hold crucial talks in Washington, D.C. amid warnings of real danger of a global recession. Colombo bound. Russia's flagship airline Aeroflot resumes operations to Sri Lanka after 4 months. Tourism Minister expects Aeroflot flights to boost winter tourism to Sri Lanka. Relief. Maximum facilities for industries affected by power interruptions. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara assures to solve issues related to daily power cuts, electricity tariff revision and fuel. All this and much more coming up tonight, this Monday, the 10th of October 2022.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome. Joining you tonight on First at 9, I'm Indivari Amuatha. We take a look at tonight's headline-making stories now. The Sri Lankan delegation currently in the United States to participate in the annual meetings of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund expect to hold crucial discussions with the IMF and the World Bank boards of directors and the technical staff. The Sri Lankan delegation is also expected to hold talks with officials of bilateral creditor nations on the sidelines of the summit. As the annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank began today, chiefs of the two global organizations warned of the increasing risk of a global recession and real danger of a worldwide contraction next year.
The 2022 annual meetings of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund began in Washington, D.C. today. This is the first time in over 2 years the meetings are taking place in person. The 8-member Sri Lankan delegation comprising State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinghe, Treasury Secretary Mahinda Siriwardana and Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Weerasinghe are representing Sri Lanka at the annual meetings. The World Bank and the IMF annual meetings bring together central bankers, ministers of finance and development, parliamentarians, private sector executives, representatives from civil society organizations, and academics to discuss issues of global concern, including the world economic outlook, poverty eradication, economic development, and aid effectiveness. Speaking at a virtual event kicking off the annual meetings, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, alongside World Bank President David Malpass, warned of the rising risk of a global recession as faster inflation forces central banks to raise interest rates, crimping growth.
What we see perhaps is a fundamental shift from the world of the last decades that was relatively predictable, with strong rules-based international order, low inflation, low interest rates, to a world that is more volatile, more fragile, and with consequences that we have to wrestle with, grapple with here in DC during this week. And of course, it is hard for everybody everywhere, but it is particularly hard for people in developing countries.
There's the risk and the real danger of a world recession next year. The advanced economies are slowing in Europe, and so we'll see where it goes into next year. But the currency depreciation means that the debt levels for the developing countries are getting more and more burdensome. The rise in interest rates puts added weight on it, and inflation is still a major problem for everyone, but especially for the poor.
These meetings are of paramount importance to Sri Lanka as the island seeks to restructure bilateral and multilateral debt as a prerequisite to secure the $2.9 billion IMF bailout package. Therefore, the Sri Lankan delegation is expected to hold crucial discussions with the IMF and World Bank Board of Directors, technical staff, and the officials of key nations. The Sri Lankan delegation is also expected to seek more international assistance to Sri Lanka during the annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, which continues through Sunday.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that a national policy that transcends in government is needed for Sri Lanka in order to overcome the present challenges. He made these remarks at the opening of a locally made pharmaceutical manufacturing facility at the Katunayaka Export Processing Zone today. The facility intends to positively impact the ailing Sri Lankan economy by saving foreign reserves, increasing employment and satisfying local demand for a range of important pharmaceutical products.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe today declared open a state-of-the-art pharmaceutical manufacturing facility in the Katunayaka Export Processing Zone set up by Yarden Laboratories, a new-generation sterile formulation finished dosage manufacturer. This state-of-the-art facility intends to contribute to an annual foreign reserve saving of $25 million out of the total $100 million needed for the public sector pharmaceutical imports. The facility provides employment for 110 workers at the moment and intends to employ over 400 skilled Sri Lankans in the future. While catering to the local demand for pharmaceutical products, Yarden Laboratories also envisions to export locally manufactured pharmaceutical products to Cambodia, Colombia, Venezuela and the US.
This facility is the first of its kind in the country. In time, I am hopeful that Yarden Laboratories and similar facilities created by other industry participants will improve Sri Lanka's position as a manufacturing hub for pharmaceutical products, not only domestically but in the region too. Despite the many challenges Sri Lanka faces today, I believe firmly in the vast potential our country has a cross range of industries. However, for this potential to be unlocked in the pharmaceutical industry, more investment is needed. I trust Your Excellency and the government will encourage this by bringing together all stakeholders to create a cohesive strategic plan and roadmap for the development of the industry. A plan which accurately identifies areas requiring state support while refining regulatory process and reducing red tape will encourage the necessary investment.
Even though Sri Lanka currently ranks the highest in social and educational indices in South Asia, it's our neighboring country that boasts of self-sufficiency. This is because we as a nation have grown accustomed to the idea of relying on imports paid for by continued loan taking. The COVID pandemic exposed this weakness in our system and it has now caught up to us and we have had a pivot sharply. Taking a leaf out of the playbook of both India and Bangladesh, their pharmaceuticals exports have become one of the chief income generators for their respective nations. I excitedly look forward to a future of similar promise with the ventures such as this. We spend about $250 million US annually for our medicine bill. And your addition will definitely make a difference. And few more additions of your class, your caliber, will make the difference. And we can be one day proud that we are also self-sufficient like all our neighbors.
Addressing the gathering, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said Sri Lanka will need a national policy that addresses mid to long-term vision of the nation.
This investment has begun at the most difficult time of Sri Lanka's economy. We need to fix the economy now. If we are to succeed, we need to generate the forex we need in the long term. We need a balance of payments surplus. We need to have an export-oriented economy that uses competitive technology. We need to have policies to create an export-oriented economy that utilizes competitive technology. We can use today's event as an example for how these policies should be made. This endeavor started when Maithripala Sirisena was president and I was the prime minister. This is a result of the government of good governance. What happened was that we worked together in silence, but our disagreements were made public. But we did many projects like this. However, even when the government changed and former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was elected, the government did not stop these projects. Normally, a government stops all projects started by the previous one. But I am the president now and I have come to declare open this facility. We all need to have one national policy. We can have our daily disagreements, but a national policy is necessary for up to 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years. If we follow a national policy, we will never fail.
කිසි විටක අපි අසාර්ථක වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Russia's flag carrier Aeroflot Airlines resumed operations to Sri Lanka after a hiatus of 4 months following the grounding of one of its aircraft at the Bandaranaike International Airport earlier in June. At an event to welcome the flight to Sri Lanka, Minister of Tourism Harin Fernandes said the resumption of Aeroflot flights to the island will boost Sri Lanka's winter tourism in the months of November and December. The tourism minister added that more airlines are expected to operate to the country by late October.
At around 10:30 this morning, an A330 flight belonging to Aeroflot with 256 passengers on board landed at the Bandaranaike International Airport. The passengers and flight crew were welcomed ceremoniously at the Katunaike Airport premises.
Looking at the history of Aeroflot Airlines, Aeroflot have been operating in Sri Lanka from 1964. They are one of the second longest during airline operated to Sri Lanka. And we are quite happy to see that you are back, and today you have brought more than 256 passengers to Sri Lanka. I also was told by your representatives here in Sri Lanka that for the next 3 or 4 months, it is up to full capacity that you are going to bring the passengers. As far as we are concerned, we are very happy to see that develop the tourism in Sri Lanka. As far as we are concerned, we will make sure that you are comfortable here when you come to Bandaranaike International Airport. We'll make sure that we give all the facilities required.
We are happy to have you all back here in Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka is ready for you. That's what we have to tell you. And Sri Lanka also have gone through quite a lot of a hard time since our past. I'm sure Russia also goes through it. But this is a beautiful island nation where you can relax, you can have a stress relief trip and then go back to your work. So we are open for Russia, and we are very happy that you resumed your flights again on full capacity, and that brings us lots of joy to all of our industry, because Sri Lanka is dependent on a huge tourism industry. We have more than 3 million people dependent on tourism. What you do today for us matters a lot for our futures.
Aeroflot will operate flights to Colombo twice per week.
මේ සංචාරකයෝ නිසා දෙසැම්බර් මාසෙ විතර වෙනකොට ලංකාව පිළිබඳව ඒ අහල පහල රටවල් වලත් මේ ගුවන් යානාව හරහා ලංකාවට ඒමට පටන් ගනී කියලා විශ්වාස කරනවා. සීත ඍතුවේදී අලුතෙන් ෆ්ලයිට් එයා ෆ්‍රාන්ස් කොන්ඩෝ ස්විස් එයා කියන ඒවත් ඔක්තෝබර් මාසයේ අගභාගයේදී එනවා. ඉතින් නොවැම්බර් දෙසැම්බර් ලංකාවේ තාමත් හොඳ සාර්ථක සංචාරකයන් පිරෙන කාලයක් බවට පත් වෙයි කියලා ලොකු විශ්වාසයක් තියෙනවා. ලංකාවට හොඳ කාලයක් උදා වෙයි කියලා විශ්වාස කරනවා. බෙදී එකම දේ එහෙම කරනකොට ලංකාව ගැන වැරදි පූර්තිමවන එක තමයි පොඩ්ඩක් එකම ප්‍රශ්නෙට තියෙන්නේ.
Now, members of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to evaluate decisions of previous commissions and committees and to take further action are scheduled to be meeting relatives of the missing persons in the Batticaloa district. Meanwhile, the South African ambassador to Sri Lanka is expected to appear before the Presidential Commission to make statements regarding missing persons during the conflict in Sri Lanka.
The Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to evaluate decisions of previous commissions and committees have arranged meetings with families of the missing in the Batticaloa district. They will discuss solutions provided by the previous commissions and committees for the concerns and grievances raised by the relatives of missing persons. A spokesperson of the Presidential Commission said the meetings will be held at Batticaloa District Secretariat from 21st to 23rd of October. Earlier, members of the Presidential Committee of Inquiry appointed to evaluate decisions of previous commissions and committees met with relatives of missing persons in the Northern Province. They are also expected to meet with the relatives of the missing in Mullaitivu district. Meanwhile, the South African ambassador to Sri Lanka is scheduled to appear before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to evaluate the decisions of the previous commissions and committees on 12th of October. The ambassador will make statements before the Presidential Commission regarding missing persons in Sri Lanka, human rights violations, the legal system of South Africa, and the actions taken by them regarding the matter in South Africa.
And we have more news coming your way right after this break. Do stay with us.
අයිනෝ පුතා හැබැයි යා ගෙදර නිදියන්නෙම අමුතු තැනක.
කාලගුණය කොහොමුණත් රයිනෝ නං වහලට සේෆ් තමයි මුළු ගෙදරම. Rhino Cement Roofing Sheets. Then you know Rhino. I know.
3.
Uber Eats මගින් ඉදිරිපත් කරන ආදරයෙන් අවශ්‍යතා ඇති අයට අත්‍යවශ්‍ය භාණ්ඩ පරිත්‍යාග කිරීමට වේදිකාවක්.
Welcome back to the news. The Colombo High Court ordered to suspend the overseas travel ban imposed on former minister and independent parliamentarian Partli Champika Ranawaka. The ruling was given allowing him to travel overseas until the 17th of March next year. In December 2019, the former minister and his driver were slapped with a travel ban by the Colombo Additional Magistrate over an accident which took place in Rajagiriya in year 2016. Following the imposition of the travel ban, the Colombo High Court lifted the travel ban imposed on MP Partli Champika Ranawaka temporarily in March 2020 due to a scheduled visit to Australia that year. Independent parliamentarian and member of the Freedom People's Congress, Professor G.L. Pires, says they will seek legal assistance over the government's attempt to postpone the local government elections in a bid to uphold the universal franchise of the people. Also, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, while praising the president's decision on vesting the powers of chairman of local government authorities on a chairman-based committee, he said that this is a mere attempt to postpone the elections.
ජනාධිපතිවරයා යෝජනා කරනවා පළාත් පාලන ආයතනවල සභාපතිවරයාගේ බලය වැඩි ඒ නිසා තීන්දුව තීරණ ගැනීමේ සභාපතිවරයාට තියෙන විධායක බලය වෙනස් කරලා සභාපතිවරයා ප්‍රමුඛ කමිටුවකට බාර දෙනවායි කියන එක පැත්තකින් තර්කය හොඳයි. නමුත් මේ කරන්න හදන්නේ පළාත් පාලන පනතට සංශෝධන ගෙනල්ලා පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණය කල් ලැබීමයි. ඇයි ආණ්ඩුව බයයි මැතිවරණවලට. මම ජනාධිපතිතුමාටත් ආණ්ඩුවටත් කියනවා අනාගතයේදී මහ පාරට බහලා අපි මැතිවරණයක් ලබා ගන්නවයි කියලා මේ අවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
මේක සුපුරුදු උප්පර වැට්ටිය. මේකේ එකම අරමුණයි ඒ අරමුණ තමයි මේ මැතිවරණ කල් දැමීම. අපි අනිවාර්යෙන් නඩුමගට පිවිසෙනවා. මේ රටේ ජනතාවගේ සර්ව ජන ඡන්ද බලය රැක ගැනීම සඳහා දැන් පාර්ලිමේන්තු මැතිවරණත් එහෙනම් මේ තර්කම ඉදිරිපත් කරමින් කල් දාන්න පුළුවන්.
ඒ කරන වෙනස්කම් ඕන දෙයක් කරන්න පුළුවන් දැන්. හැබැයි අපිට පේන්නේ මැතිවරණයක් තිබීම ජනාධිපතිවරයාගේ ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයේ උමනාව කියලා. මොකද එතුමාට ජනාධිපති හැටියට ඡන්දෙ දෙන්න ඒ උදව් කරපු 134ගේ ඒ ප්‍රධාන කොන්දේසියක් තමයි මැතිවරණයක් නොතිබිය යුතුයි කියන එක.
එහි දූර සංඛ්‍යාව අඩු කිරීම හා ඒ බලතලමය කිරීම ඉතාම හොඳයි. හැබැයි ඒක ලබන අවුරුද්දේ මාර්තු මාසෙනුත් එහාට කල් දැමීම සඳහා මේ සංශෝධනය යොදා ගැනීම ඉතාමත්ම නරක පූර්වාදර්ශයක්.
පළාත් පාලන ආයතනවල മന്ത്രി ප්‍රමාණය කවුද මේ 8-10ට වැඩි කරේ? පහුගිය රනිල් මෛත්‍රී පාලනය කාලේ තමයි මේ മന്ത്രി ප්‍රමාණය ප්‍රාදේශ සභා නගර සභාවල වැඩි කරේ. ඉතින් එහෙම වැඩි කරපු රනිල්ම දැන් කියනවා මේක වැඩි මේක 4000ට අඩු කරන්න ඕනේ. ඉතින් එහෙමනම් එදා වැඩි කරන වෙලාවේ මේක තේරුම් ගන්න එපා.
Taking you to business news now, Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Vijayasekara agrees to provide maximum facilities for industries affected by the continuing power interruptions and fuel shortages. During a meeting, the Minister of Industries Ramesh Patirana today, Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Vijayasekara has assured his fullest support to industries through the power and energy sector. During the discussion, financial challenges faced by the industrial sector due to the electricity tariff revision was also taken up. According to the Ministry of Industries, various industries in all sectors had presented concerns related to daily power interruptions, electricity tariff revision and fuel supply to the Power and Energy Minister. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has allowed prepayment of up to $250,000 when importing plant seeds and fertilizer. A Gazette notice issued under Sri Lanka's import and export control law has allowed maize, corn, bean and vegetable seeds to be prepaid. Magnesium sulfate, zinc sulfate, soil, conditioners, urea, calcium nitrate, MOP, TSP, NPK, soluble mixtures and some insecticides will also be allowed. The move comes after Sri Lanka imposed import controls on several goods to manage the foreign reserves crisis that ended, or rather that began earlier this year. Taking you to some global business news, oil prices fell today, ending 5 days of gains as investors look to slowing economic activity in China, the world's biggest crude importer, which revived concerns about a global recession and falling global fuel demand. The market has been hit by China's economic weakness, U.S. monetary policy tightening, and the Biden administration's strategic petroleum reserve intervention.
Brent crude futures for December settlement fell by as much as 1.1% and was down 40 cents at $97.52 a barrel by 12:40 p.m. GMT. West Texas Intermediate crude for November delivery declined as much as 1.1% and was last at $92.29, down 35 cents. Services activity in China during September contracted for the first time in 4 months as COVID-19 restrictions hit demand and business confidence, data showed on Saturday. The slowdown in China, the world's second largest oil consumer behind the United States, adds to growing concerns over a possible global recession triggered by numerous central banks raising interest rates to combat high inflation. Analysts have also highlighted the possibility of additional releases from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve next month in response to the decision last week by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and Allies, including Russia, to lower the output target by 2 million barrels per day.
Global shares fell today after a series of explosions in the Ukrainian capital and renewed concerns about the economic outlook sent investors into safe haven assets such as the dollar and bonds. The MSCI All World Index fell 0.5% in early trading in Europe, down for a fourth day in a row.
The dollar held firm against a basket of currencies, while a number of market-based measures of investor risk nervousness showed another increase. The MSCI All World Index fell 0.5% in early trading in Europe, down for a fourth day in a row. The Pan-European Stock 600 fell 0.5% to its lowest in a week, while the German DAX lost 0.1% and the FTSE 100 fell 0.7%, making it one of the weaker performing indices. S&P 500 futures fell 0.5%, while those on the Nasdaq lost 0.6%. Wall Street sank on Friday after an upbeat payrolls report cemented expectations for another large rate hike. Futures imply a more than 80% chance of rates rising by 75 basis points next month, while the European Central Bank is expected to match that and the Bank of England to hike by at least 100 basis points. The dollar index rose 0.3% at 113.14, leaving the euro down 0.4% at $0.9697 and the yen flat at 145.45, a whisker away from the recent 24-year high of 145.90 that prompted the Japanese intervention. Sterling lost 0.3% to $1.10625 after the Bank of England announced a surprise decision to shore up the gilt market ahead of the end of the emergency bond buying program on Friday. Sterling lost 0.3% to $1.10625 after the Bank of England announced a surprise decision to shore up the gilt market ahead of the end of an emergency bond buying program on Friday.
Welcome back. Malaysian Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob called for an early election today, hoping to win a stronger mandate for his party and stabilize the rocky political landscape that has plagued the country over the last 4 years. In a televised speech, Ismail said the country's monarch had agreed to his request to dissolve parliament and an election date would be announced by the Election Commission. Polls must be held within 60 days of the dissolution of Parliament. Voter turnout could be reduced if he chooses date falls during the year-end monsoon season. Malaysian PM said he was calling for the election to end questions over the legitimacy of his government and return the mandate to the people. The ruling party's rush for an election comes as the economy, still recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, has begun to fall and feel the pinch of rising costs and global slowdown. An election was not due until September 2023, but Ismail has been under increasing pressure from some factions of his ruling coalition to hold the vote earlier due to infighting. Well, that ends up tonight's edition of First at 9 on AdaDerana 24. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.